Mass media around the world are discussing the incident with a refugee from Ukraine, Irina Zarutska. On the evening of August 22, 2025, she enters the subway in the South End area of Charlotte, North Carolina, and sits on the seat. A surveillance camera captures a homeless man sitting behind her, pulling out a folding knife and stabbing Irina 3 times in the neck. The killer turned out to be 34-year-old black man DeCarlos Brown Jr., who was under investigation at the time. While in the West, the right is outraged by the left's concealment of this crime, and they set Vladimir Putin's Russia as an example, as an allegedly white Christian state. Let's figure out how things really are. 20 years ago, Vladimir Putin declared that the slogan "Russia for Russians" was nothing more than the motto of fools and provocateurs. And for the next 2 decades, Putin has carried out a clear and consistent policy of Russia for everyone, except Russians. All Russian nationalist parties and movements were crushed. Their leaders were either imprisoned or killed. At the same time, nationalist diasporas of Muslim minorities reached the peak of their power, engaging in organized crime, hooliganism, and violence. Chechens, Dagestanis, and Ingush are Muslim nationalist peoples who openly despise and hate Russians, Jews, and Christians. Today, the Russian Federation ranks second in the world after the USA in terms of the number of migrants. But while most migrants in the US are Christians from Latin America, in Russia about 90% of all migrants are Muslims. The majority of them are young men. Tajiks, Uzbeks, Kyrgyz, Azerbaijanis, they despise and hate the Russian people, as well as Jews and Christians in general. Yet they are free to come to Russia and obtain citizenship. At the same time, Putin's propagandists mock Western countries, ridiculing their supposedly failed migration policies. This double standard and hypocrisy permeates all of Putin's Russia. Putin, who positions himself as an Orthodox Christian, in 2024 kissed the Quran and declared that he was very pleased with the growth of Russia's Muslim population. For a true Orthodox Christian, the Quran is heresy, just like Islam itself, but the allegedly Orthodox Putin is not bothered by this at all. Meanwhile, Muslim migrants in Russia commit enormous numbers of crimes, rapes of women and children, murders, robberies, and even terrorist attacks. While Russian men are sent by Putin to die in the war against brotherly Ukraine, a nation closely related to the Russian people, he has opened Russia's borders to hordes of Muslim invaders. Criticizing the West, Putin carries out the same suicidal migration policy aimed against Russia's native population, against Russians and other indigenous peoples. Putin is not a leader of Christians, not a Russian nationalist, but just another dictator whose only goal is to cling to power at any cost.